For 3 centuries, the Karačonji family was very attached to Beodra. Towards the end of the 18th century, the family bought Beodra from the Viennese court and began extensive landscape activities. During the 19th century, they managed to make Beodra a place with all the features of a small town, and at the beginning of the 20th century, Beodran castles and estates slowly began to lose their significance for the family. Nevertheless, all family members, be they nobles or counts, always had the nobiliary particle of Beodra in their names, because Beodra was and remains their family base. In 1781, Deodat Bogdan Karačonji bought the Beodra estate for 103,000 Hungarian forints and received the nobiliary particle of Beodra as a token of appreciation from the Viennese court. His sons, Christoph and Lazar, were the ones who started arranging Beodra. They performed significant urban development, construction and land improvement works. They started intensively developing agriculture and trade and introducing economic innovations that contributed to a significant increase in family wealth. Starting from Christoph, all descendants inherited noble titles, and starting from Lazar, all descendants inherited count titles. A descendant of Christoph, Laslo, who will on several occasions during his life play the role of sub-prefect and prefect of the Torontal County, was born on the 23rd of April 1806 in Temesvar. The names he received at baptism were entered in the birth register as follows: Laslo Christopher Joseph, along with the names of his parents, Deodat Bogdan Karačonji of Beodra and his wife Jakobina. His mother's father, his grandfather, Mr. Josef Zirer, the royal court translator for the Ottoman language, is listed as godfather at his baptism. Laslo was the eldest of 9 children from his parents' marriage. He had 3 brothers, Antal, Istvan and Christoph, and 5 sisters, Vilma, Maria, Leopoldina, Rebecca, and Jakobina. We do not have much data from Laslo's youth. It is quite certain that he grew up under the impact of the Napoleonic Wars, but at the same time under the impact of advanced national movements that flourished in Europe at the time. They refused to reconcile with the situation that arose after 1815. During his law studies in Pressburg, Bratislava, he certainly had to have come into contact with the political circumstances and progressive ideas of the time. The convening of the Hungarian parliament in 1825 marked the beginning of a new era in Hungarian history, known as the Hungarian Reform era. The main initiator of the new modernization aspirations was Count István Széchenyi, who proposed a series of measures at the parliament aimed at reforming Hungarian society. These include the abolition of the serfdom, the taxation of landed gentry, the establishment of the National Bank, the introduction of per diem wages, etc. The same year, when the Reform Parliament assembled, Laslo Karačonji was finishing his law studies in Pressburg. His youthful spirit embraced the sublime ideas of the time, and he took upon himself to work on their realization. He became a clerk in Torontal County in 1826 and started building a career in public administration that was consistently on an upward trajectory. From 1826 to 1831, he was the honorary deputy county notary, after which he first became an honorary and then a real commissioner of the Turkish Kanija County. He was appointed second Torontal sub-prefect in 1831, a position he held until 1835. This was already a significant advance for him in the county hierarchy, as the sub-prefect was the main barrier of executive power. According to the memory of the Torontal ombudsman Dema Hatfi, during Karačonji's service as sub-prefect, Veliki Bečkerek flourished as the capital of the county. Furthermore, Karačonji was famous for his sense of justice, humanism, and good deeds. During his service as sub-prefect, the administration and judiciary functioned flawlessly. Karačonji was extremely committed to cultural and social life, theater, music, and literature. In his history of Veliki Bečkerek, Felix Miliker emphasized Karačonji's merits for the development of theater life in this city through the founding and chairmanship of the Society for the Aid of Hungarian Theater. Karačonji's contribution to the development of the Veliki Bečkerek theater undoubtedly had its echo in the urban legend of a rich, anonymous Hungarian nobleman who, out of love for a past actress and with the intention of attracting her to the province, had a theater building erected in Veliki Bečkerek, the Temple of Thalia. In addition to this, during Karačonji's service as sub-prefect, the first public reading room was opened in Veliki Bečkerek, the Casina, the first bookstore and grammar school, and the work of several prominent writers, Agoston Baranyi, Evstatie Eta Mihailović, and artist Konstantin Daniel was also noted. Karačonji also initiated the founding of the Society of Friends of the Casina, the pension institute of county officials, financial officers, and notarius, and the Torontal Savings Bank. Miliker therefore noted that in the mid-19th century, Bečkerek could have been considered a well-standing provincial town in which trades and craft pulsated lively and culture and prosperity ruled. The second half of the 30s and the beginning of the 40s were significant for Laslo Karačonji in the family aspect as well. He married Franziska Kiš of Vitebej, a rich noblewoman from the respectable and wealthy Kiš family. At the time of his appointment as the second sub-prefect of Torontal, he became a father after the birth of his son in Temešvar. The birth certificate of the Catholic Church there states that the joyous occasion happened on the 18th of August, 1836, and that the newborn was named Ferenc Lukács at the baptism, held 3 days later. His godparents at the baptism were his uncle István and Karačonji's son-in-law Miksa Heterlinti. A year later, also in Temešvar, the Torontal sub-prefect became a father for the second time. His second son was born and named Laslo. In April 1838, Laslo Karačonji, with his brother Lajos, started the construction of a new single-nave Catholic church in Beodra of impressive dimensions dedicated to Saint Mary Magdalene. The church was richly equipped with all the necessary liturgical objects, paintings, altars, vestments, organ, etc. After its completion, in 1842, the church became a family tomb with a crypt holding the graves of about 20 family members. The construction of Karačonji's castle was underway at the same time from 1840 to 1846 in the style of late classicism, according to the ideas of architect Ban Josef from Budapest. As sub-prefect, Karačonji welcomed the outbreak of the Hungarian Revolution in 1848. The events in Torontal County during the revolution are well documented today. The first indication of an imminent conflict between Serbs and the Hungarians, which very quickly turned into a bloody and ruthless civil war, started appearing at the end of the same month. In the district headquarters of Velika Kikinda, a riot broke out on the 25th of April, in which the people clashed with the Khazars. After fierce clashes, the army was forced to leave the city. The Hungarian authorities act on these events by imposing a state of emergency on the territory of southern Hungary, sending a government commissioner and introducing a court-martial. The civil war was inevitable after the May Assembly in Sremski Karlovci, which proclaimed the founding of Serbian Vojvodina. Over the next 2 years, Torontal County will become the scene of a bloody Serbian-Hungarian conflict in which it will often pass from one hand to the other. From April 1848 to January 1849, the county was controlled by Hungarian revolutionaries. Then from January to April 1849 it was under short-term Serbian rule, only to be recaptured by the Hungarians in the period from April to August 1849 and kept under their administration until the collapse of their war efforts. During the crucial events of 1848, Laslo Karaconji was serving as sub-prefect, and he also cooperated with Petar Čarnojević, the great prefect of Tamiš County, who was sent to suppress the uprising of Serbian population that broke out in the Kikinda district on the 25th of April. Times were hard and whirlwind of revolution was flaring up, but during those revolutionary events, Laslo Karaconji was appointed Torontal's Grand Prefect at the County Congregation Assembly on the 30th of May, 1848. During the revolution, Karaconji was forced to seek refuge in Temišvar. He received an order from the local war council that he was not to leave the city. He was held hostage in strict custody in order to be exchanged for the Imperial Royal General von Hentzi. During his forced stay in Temišvar, he violated the order not to leave the city. On several occasions, he stayed in Bazyash and Mehadia. Due to this type of disloyal attitude on his part, he was later placed under constant supervision. After the collapse of the revolution during Bach's neo-absolutism, Laslo Karaconji and members of his family were placed under the watchful eye of the new authorities. A police search was carried out in his castle in Beodra in the spring of 1852. On that occasion, Karaconji's bedroom, desk, family archive, library, castle basement, and other rooms were searched. His letters and documents were examined in detail. Forbidden Kossuth banknotes, forbidden or suspicious literature, as well as weapons were all searched for. It can be seen from the minutes that the reason for the search was, among others, that it was suspected that Karaconji was providing refuge to the revolutionary leader Hatvanyi. Nevertheless, the former Torontal Grand Prefect was, despite the fact that the authorities were keeping an eye on him, allowed to act freely for the most part and was even appointed to several public positions. For example, in 1854 he was appointed conservator of the Commission for Research and Maintenance of Monuments in the Serbian Dukeship and Tamiš Banat, and on that occasion he was issued an appropriate diploma and handed an official seal. That was when the first exploration of nearby Arač area began. Karaconji held his position for 2 years and he resigned in 1856, explaining his resignation by the lack of the time to maintain his own large estate and by health and family reasons. After resigning, he returned the diploma, seal, and official documents that were issued to him. The real reason for his resignation, however, was the recent trip he took with his family. Namely, in September of the same year, he, his wife Francisca, and sons Ferenc and Laslo were granted passports to travel abroad, to Austria and German lands, Saxony, Prussia, Bavaria, and the Kingdom of Württemberg. The issued travel documents indicates that the Karačonji family traveled for pleasure, but the real reason for that trip can be found in the passports of their children, Ferenc and Laslo, schooling in Hohenheim, Kingdom of Württemberg, at the prestigious Agricultural Institute. After returning from the trip and sending his sons off to school, Karačonji was registered in 1858 and 1859 as the president of the Pension Institute of Landowner Officials of the Veliki Bečkerek district, with its headquarters in Žombol. At the same time, he served as president of the Potisje Water Cooperative based in Beodra, protecting the interests of landowners by building dams and embankments. The only time he came into confrontation with the authorities concerned the payment of taxes, which was typical of the Hungarian aristocracy at the time, which sought to evade this obligation whenever and wherever possible. He criticized the tax system after he was appropriately sanctioned. As early as in the first days of 1861, immediately after the reunification, first concrete steps were taken towards the restoration of the Torontal County. Laslo Karačonji, who performed the duty of the county's great prefect in 1848, was now reappointed to that position. Immediately after the news of the appointment of the Torontal Grand Prefect were announced, the castle of the Karačonji family in Beodre became the destination of numerous deputations sent to the new and old Grand Prefect's court. Among them, in addition to Hungarians, there were Germans, Serbs, Jews, and others. In the coming weeks, all officials and members of the administration of the Torontal County were elected. In the fall of 1861, the Hungarian parliament was dissolved and a state of emergency, i.e. imposed government, was declared in Hungary. Laslo Karačonji was relieved of his duties as great prefect at his personal request in November 1861, only 8 months after the county was renewed. The Torontal County once again found itself in a state of political uncertainty. Retiring from public administration, Karačonji devoted himself to the improvement of economic opportunities. In early June 1863, it was recorded that he was the founder and the president of the Torontal Agricultural Credit Bureau. Before that, he was the head of the Pension Institute for County Notaries and the Pension Institute of Landowner Officials with its headquarters in Žombol, and the Society for Entertainment and Leisure with its headquarters in Kikinda. The elections for the Hungarian parliament in September 1865 were a clear signal to the Hungarians that the political situation was changing in their favor. This was confirmed by the imperial decision by which Laslo Karačonji was reappointed Torontal's Grand Prefect and by which the election, i.e. the Constitutive Assembly of the new county administration, was scheduled for 16th of October. It was expected that the new and old Great Prefect would come to the county headquarters a day earlier, on the 15th of October. However, in order to avoid the festivities and the ceremony of installation, enthronement, Karačonji appeared unannounced in Veliki Bečkerek 3 days earlier and settled in the county palace. Nevertheless, the local citizens decided to organize appropriate ceremonies, similar to the reception that was given in his honor in 1861. After the conclusion of the treaty between Austria and Hungary, Laslo Karačonji was reappointed in 1867, i.e. he was confirmed as Torontal's Grand Prefect. In the next several years, the Torontal County Official Building will be the scene of various conflicts between numerous political and national currents. Despite that, the Great Prefect will take good care of economic, cultural, and all other circumstances in the county. In the midst of all these important political processes and trends, on the 24th of July 1869, the great prefect of Torontal, Laslo Karačonji, suddenly died at the age of 65. The body of the deceased was placed on a catafalque in the Grand Hall of the Beodra Castle on the 29th of July, from where it was transferred to the family tomb for eternal rest on the 31st of July at 11 a.m. The service was held by numerous clergymen in a specially designed place in the southwest wing of the castle, where the first sub-prefect Lazar Hadžić laid a wreath on the coffin, and Mihalj Varadi, the third sub-prefect and the president of the Torontal County Court, gave the eulogy. After the wake, the magnificent funeral procession headed towards the church with the Karačonji family crypt, stopping at the house of Mikloš Karačonji in Adamovićevo Krsta Street before the inn and the entrance to the church. The procession consisted of numerous high-ranking officials and dignitaries who, as a sign of great respect, took turns carrying the coffin. A horse with a black flag headed the procession, followed by a small cross, school flag, and other flags, numerous drawn sabers, etc. Sub-prefects, judges, commissioners, district heads, clergy, families, association representatives, nobility, the most important people of that time from the entire county, ceremoniously and solemnly sent the great prefect off to eternal rest. As a sign of reverence for the late Torontal Grand Prefect, his position remained vacant for the next 2 years, and the county solemnly marked the 40 days from his death with a memorial service in the newly built Catholic church in Veliki Bečkerek, consecrated a year earlier. Laslo Karačonji truly marked the time in which he lived with his life and work. He left an undeniable trace on the area of Banat, Bečkerek, and especially Beodra, which will never forget its lord, nobleman, and founder. Novo Miloševo now nurtures the memory of the Karačonji family most intensively through the revival of buildings that were in the castle complex. Today, the Kotarka and Žitni magazine contain numerous museum exhibits, and the book, Laslo Karačonji and His Age, the capital work of historian Dr. Filip Krčmar, represents the first and most comprehensive study of the life and work of the great prefect Laslo Karačonji of Beodra.